reason will never allow you to understand the concept of suffering is grace. The line, suffering is grace, is very hard for people to hear. It sounds so Pollyanna or so masochistic or something. All your troubles, all your sorrows, all your difficulties, all your weighty sufferings, which everybody has, that is grace. It's been given to you. It's been given to you.
We don't have to sit around judging God for a moment.
Like, Job, what have you done to me? I'm a good guy. What are you doing this to me for?
We could just sit around and appreciate what's going on. Just listen to what's going on. I don't mean appreciate meaning, oh, it's wonderful. Forget that. I mean acknowledge, allow, be with what is happening in the universe. Like if I say to you, have you had a stage in your life when you were suffering, which might be now, or sometime in the past? Most of you would go like that. And then I would say to you, well, I'll tell you what I have found, and I'm curious whether you found it too. As much as I hated that suffering, when I look at who I am now, I realize that that suffering was one of the root nurturants of my compassion. And I don't want to ever have that suffering again, and I don't want to lay it on anybody else. See, I won't say it's good for you, go suffer, because I found it good. But I'll tell you that my suffering has turned out in some bizarre way to be grace, in the sense of making me a more aware and compassionate and present human being. My entire life is my path, because it's all the curriculum. It's an exquisite curriculum.
You don't apply your rational criteria to the universe, because the way karma works is not understandable by your rational mind, since your rational mind is a product of karma. And a system cannot understand something that is meta to itself. It's a logical impossibility. You don't hear the full universe. And there's where the faith comes, and the faith is deepened through your own practices, through your own direct experiences. It's not beliefs that somebody hands you, it's faith that comes through your own direct experiences. So you learn to keep your heart open in hell. Now, dealing with suffering is hard work. It's hard work. I'm not trying to make it all light and ha 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 and isn't this all fun. This is damned hard work. This quote on suffering says, pain falls drop by drop upon the heart until, in our own despair, against our will, comes wisdom through the awful grace of God. The awful grace of God. In other words, that part of us which is separate is screaming about the suffering. The part of us that's awakening is working to extract the wisdom from it. And it is an intense, a profoundly intense experience. And it is an experience in which suffering brings people closest to the possibility of awakening. Because suffering is a gift that's given to you to allow you to come home. And once you begin to awaken, you start to look at your own life as, how will it help me grow? And then you see that the reason you are suffering is because of the way your mind is clinging. And it's bizarre. You almost feel like you're perverse when you look at people that aren't suffering in a life, and you begin to feel compassion because they're staying at such a superficial level of life. Gurdjieff, the Russian philosopher, said there is nothing that can be attained spiritually without suffering in life. But at the same time, if you are going to proceed on the journey, you must sacrifice suffering. You hear that dual nature of it. You have to have suffered, because the suffering is what burns through you and deepens the compassion and opens the door. Suffering brings you closer to the mystery. And at the same moment, if you hold on to the suffering and grab at it and sort of wallow in it or cling to it, it stops the journey. There is an understanding of suffering such that you don't invite suffering into your life, but when it comes, you work with it and transform it. To understand the nature of suffering is the precondition for being able to convert it, to see the way in which suffering is grace.
Does prayer work? And if so, how does it work? To pray to somebody has you thinking about somebody, and it opens you to that dimension of reality. As you understand more and more, it's interesting what you'd actually pray for. You wouldn't actually pray for things to change. The only thing I can think to pray for is understanding, is having the wisdom to understand the way it is, so that my actions will come out of that harmony, that deepest understanding.
It is as it is. There were no mistakes. And for us to be able to live in that world where our hearts are breaking, because from a human point of view, the suffering is unbearable, though you can bear it. And you can bear it because you are balanced with that other level of awareness which understands that it is as it is. And I'll tell you, from where I'm looking, there are no errors in the game. It is absolutely unfolding just right. And that where you are at this moment is not an error. There were no mistakes.
You begin to see that all of that stuff that's happening to you not only might not be bad, it might even be grace. The story of the man who had a horse, and the horse ran away, and his neighbor came up and said, "Oh, that's terrible." The man said, "You never know." And the next day, the horse came back, and it was leading 2 other wild horses. And the neighbor said, "That's wonderful." And the farmer said, "You never know." And then his son was training one of the wild horses, and while he was riding the wild horse, he fell off and broke his leg. And the neighbor came up and said, "That's terrible." And the farmer said, "You never know." And then the Cossack army came through recruiting everybody, taking all the young men that were able, but they didn't take the son because he had a broken leg. And the neighbor came up and said, "That's wonderful." And the farmer said, "You never know." And on it goes. You see?
See, in all of the religions, there is all of this stuff that I just told you. All of it. This is it. This is enlightenment. Nature and enlightenment are one. This is the whole works, and this is it, and this is more than that.
If you are going to be able to be available for someone else's suffering, you have to be able to acknowledge your own suffering and be able to understand the nature of suffering in such a way that you have converted the quality of suffering in yourself.
We can't choose to go backward. There is only one direction all moving, and that is towards consciousness. Strangely enough, bizarre though it may seem when you look at the whole scene, that's really what's happening. And we are just as inevitably propelled on as moths towards a flame.